Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I am here to share some of my favorite feel-good books. These are books that are just, they feel like a warm hug. They're kind of happy books, you know. Sometimes if you're like me, sometimes I'll read a very intense thriller or, you know, a heavy romance or something like that. And sometimes you need books that will just kind of cheer you up, if you will. These books that I'm talking about today will do just that. They are, like I said, a warm hug, sun on your face, just a beautiful day is what I can kind of compare it to. Like just feel good books. And I have a few to talk about. Let's get into them. Okay, the one, of course, that I thought about this whole video is House by the Cerulean Sea by T.J Klune. I'm sure if you have been on BookTube for a while, Bookstagram, whatever your preference is getting book recommendations, you've heard about this book, and with good reason. It is an amazing book. It is a warm hug. It is a book that will make you smile from ear to ear, from start to finish. I highly recommend this book. And this is about a character named Linus, and he works in the department in charge of magical youth. Pretty much imagine if X-Men were like accepted, you know, and there was youth that had X-Men qualities, and sometimes they don't really have parents and stuff like that, so they have foster homes particularly for these magical youth, and Linus is in charge of making sure all the foster homes run a-okay. The person that's in charge of the foster home does really good, kind of like a group home, if you will, and Linus gets assigned this one house that's like a very kind of elusive house. It's the House by the Cerulean Sea. It's like in the middle kind of nowhere, and you know, he has to go live there for a few months to kind of just see if the kids are being taken care of. He goes and he falls in love with these kids, and he falls in love also with the head of the foster home. I forget his name. Author, and it's just so amazing. Linus at the beginning of this book doesn't really have a connection with any of the kids that he meets while doing his job, where he, you know, he doesn't get attached, but as soon as he meets these kids at the house, at this house, he falls in love with them, and you cannot help but to fall in love with them because they are amazing. I mean, we have a character that is like a 150-year-old like gnome. She looks like a little garden gnome. It's adorable. We have a wyvern. We have a character that can turn into a dog. We also have the son of the devil, Lucy. I'm sure, and we have also this like adorable gray monster that like all his life's dream is to become a bellhop. That's all he wants in life. I think his name's Chauncey. It is just sheer perfection. And Author is also a character like you will just fall in love with all of these characters. You would want to move inside of this house with them, learn how to do magic, learn, you know, all of their different ways that they have, and it's just an amazing book. So this is first up on my list because this is one that I will say about all of these 10 times over. If you want a warm hug in a book, this one is the perfect one to pick up. Kind of going on in the same veins as that, I would say if you want like a spring summer one, this is a perfect book to read. If you want like a fallish kind of Halloween fall vibes one, The Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sandya Madonna is the book for you. I read this last fall and I loved it so much. This is kind of in the same way. This is about a character named Micah, who is a witch, and she's in the Society of Secret Witches. They meet like once a month, and it's all very hush-hush. Like you cannot tell anybody. It's like Fight Club.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
First rule of being a witch, don't tell anybody that you're a witch. And, you know, even these witches in this club or society, whatever you want to call it, don't even communicate with each other. It's like when you're a witch, you are cast out alone, like you have to go through this alone. You maybe get to see your witch friends like every few times a year, but that's about it. You can't really tell anybody you're a witch. You can't really be near your parents. It's all a very hush-hush thing. And Micah also has a YouTube channel. She shows off her witchiness, but also it's fake, but it's kind of real. With that, she gets contacted by this guy that says, hey, we have these 3 girls that are witches, and we really need somebody to teach them because they have no one to teach them. And Micah's like, you know what? I grew up kind of alone being a witch, and if I could help somebody learn and things like that, I will do that. So she goes to this home. It's called Nowhere House, and she teaches 3 young witches how to control their magic. It breaks all the rules, but she goes anyway, is immediately tangled up into the lives and secrets of not only her 3 charges, but also an absent archaeologist, a retired actor, 2 long-suffering caretakers, and Jamie. So we have a romance in this, but it kind of takes the back burner. It's more about Micah developing her relationship with these 3 young girls and teaching them all about witches and how to be a witch and things like that. And it is just, again, like a warm hug. I'll sound like a broken record in this video, but when do I not? But it's just a magical book that is perfect for fall. And if you want like just a cozy fall time witchy book to read that's also very warm and heartfelt, this is a great one to check out. My last kind of fantastical warm hug book, of course, is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldtree. Sorry, it's very shiny. I read this one earlier this year and I loved it. Again, this one's kind of maybe fall winterish because it's all about an orc. Like whenever I think about this character Viv, an orc, I think of just Warcraft. It's kind of like, I'd say it's like Warcraft, kind of Dungeons and Dragons-y. And she's, you know, she's a bloodthirsty orc, as most orcs are. I would assume. I don't know. I haven't met an orc. If I do, I'll let you know. Hopefully they're as nice as Viv. But either way, she's decided she is hanging up her battle axe. She is done with the battles. She kind of wants to retire from that, and she wants to open up her own coffee shop. And you're thinking, oh, that sounds great. Well, in this kind of world she lives in, coffee is still very brand new. Like nobody knows what coffee is. So she like finds a shop that was like a horse, like I think, like stable, and she literally hires this guy and like transforms it into this amazing coffee shop. She also hires another girl, I forget her name, Kendry, I believe, and she is, I think she's a succubus, and basically they just team it together and build this coffee shop, and it is so amazing. Like you and me, we know an idea of a coffee shop. You kind of have a warm ambiance. Sometimes you have live music because it just adds more. You also add baked goods. You can serve hot coffee, cold coffee. You know, you get the gist. But in this book, in this world, they have no clue what coffee is. So they're just literally trying to piece the puzzles together as they go, and they do just that. They have this rat, which I know is not like the best thing because rats, ugh. But he makes like these amazing cinnamon rolls that like he, and then he learns how to make biscotti, and it's just, they hire him and then they just decide, and they learn that like this one character, he likes the atmosphere of the coffee house but isn't like hot coffee, and then they're like, oh man, we should put ice in it. It's just amazing because you're like, duh, but they, you know, they don't know. And it's just a beautiful book about opening up a coffee shop in like a fantastical world, also while falling in love, also while being an orc, and you know, there is kind of a mystery element to it because she has this kind of secret that she's hiding, and I loved it so much. Again, like kind of a wintry coffee time read, I guess you could say. Coffee time read. You get what I'm saying. It was adorable. Highly recommend. Moving on to more traditional, like I guess you could say kind of fiction. Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott will make you cry but also make you smile because these little women, indeed, you know, they will capture your heart and steal them and never let them go. I don't read many classics. I'm not a classic reader. I know, like, I struggled with that for a long time. I never would say like I was a reader because I wasn't into classics, and I felt like that was blasphemy, but not anymore. But I do read the occasional classic, and I decided to read Little Women a few years ago, and I loved it. So if you don't know, this is a book that takes place, oh gosh, I forget what year it was, honestly. I want it first published in 1868. So it's all about the March sisters. We have Jo, we have Meg, we have Beth, and we have Amy, and it's all about their relationship with each other. Also, they have some romantic relationships, also their fathers being shipped off to the war, and it's just a heartwarming book about sisterhood, family, romance, and it's just an amazing one. I'm sure you've all heard of the story. There's been countless adaptations, with one that just got released a few years ago even, and you know, it's just one that keeps being adapted over and over again with good reason. It's a great story. Am I a fan of keep readapting things? That's a story for another day. But it's just an amazing book. Like, if you are like me and if you're wary of classics because of the language, because like I've tried Jane Austen, I just can't get into the language with it. This one is a super easy read, super fast. It looks thick, but it reads super, super quick, and it's very easy to understand. So I would highly recommend it. If you're not a classics reader, this is a great one to start off with. That it's just a warm hug. I wish I could say I could recommend like Anne of Green Gables and things like that, because I know that's also a very warm book, but I still have yet to read Anne of Green Gables. What's the other one I'm thinking of? That's also very just bright and happy. That's a classic as well, but one day I'll read those. One day. Then I have a romance that is just like it's my favorite kind of just happy, makes you smile from ear-to-ear romance, and that is Very Sincerely Yours by Kerry Winfrey. Kerry Winfrey writes clean romances, so in case if you're into that, which is totally awesome, she writes awesome ones, but this one by far is my favorite. I say this, if you like You've Got Mail, you'll probably like this one. We follow two characters. We follow Teddy and we follow Everett. So Teddy, at the beginning of this book, is in a relationship, and I don't know where her boyfriend just breaks up with her, and she's like what? Like, she invested everything she had into this relationship, and she quite frankly does not know who she is without this relationship. So she goes and moves in with her two like best friends, and there she starts watching like this guy named Everett on TV. He is kind of like, I imagine him like a dash of Mr. Rogers, a dash of Jim Henson's. Like, he has the puppets, kind of like Daniel Tiger and stuff like that, which, hands up if your kids love Daniel Tiger. Both my kids still love Daniel Tiger. It's a great one. I love that one. I love PBS shows. I love that one, and I love Curious George. Like, Curious George, all-time favorite kid show of all time. Like, I will watch that. It's just so heartwarming. It's so cute. Like, I love Curious George. But either way, she starts watching this, and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to email this guy, because you never know. Maybe Everett has some good advice for me that I could just like listen to. And so they start corresponding back and forth to each other. She works at this vintage toy shop, and eventually they meet, and it's just so adorable. Like, this is the warm hug of all romance books. I loved it a ton. If you want like a cozy romance that is just clean and super sweet, and yes, overly cheesy, but you eat the cheese up and it's amazing, this is a great book for you. Last up, we have one that I didn't love, but it is a very heartwarming, just a feel-good book, and that is The Late Bloomers Club by Louisa Miller. I've talked about her other book a lot on this channel, The Country Girl's Guide to Baking. The City Baker's Guide to Country Living. That's it. And I always recommend that every fall because it's a great one. This is kind of like her summer book, if you will. So in this book, we follow another very small town. Is it the same small town this other character lives in? I think. But either way, it's about a character named Nora who owns this diner called the Miss Guthrie Diner. And she is happy as can be in this small town. She loves serving her apple cider donuts. Hell yeah. Coffee, and but her life is soon abandoned when she discovers that her younger sister Kit is in town, and she's set to inherit this like home of this beloved town person named Peggy. And Kit, her younger sister, is like an aspiring filmmaker. She wants to sell this house, get the money, kind of get her stuff and like move on. But Nora's like, you know what? Like, I might want to keep this house because this is where my roots are planted down. Also, we have this, we have a guy named Elliot who is like a big box guy coming in to try to sell the townspeople on like having a big box like store come to this town. And it's all about that. So if you want like a small town book that like has a lot of charm to it, just feel good with a little bit of romance, but it's mostly about the small town vibes, this is a perfect one for you. It's not one of my favorites. I don't love her writing, but it's still adorable. I will give you that. Like, it made me want to go to this town. It made me want to go to the Miss Guthrie Diner and eat an apple cider donut and coffee and have a great freaking time. And it's definitely feel good. So I would recommend it for that regard. So there you have some books that are just feel good books. You know, the books, like I told you, wrap you up in a warm hug. These are those books for me. I would love to know if you have any feel good books. Please leave them down below. I would love to hear your suggestions because I am always on the lookout for them because I love a good feel good book. Gosh, I will read 10 feel good books over like one really heavy emotional one any day of the week. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.